I solved the Millionaire's translator problem in 1 minute, and what happened next shocked everyone. Welcome back with a new real shock story. Before we start, comment and tell me which city you're watching from. At the end, don't forget to subscribe and rate it from 0 to 10. Let's enjoy the story, everyone.
I still remember that day, like it's carved into my memory, the kind of day that changes you without warning. I had just flown into the city for a meeting, my mind buzzing with the usual excitement of new places, new faces. Normally, I love that thrill, the feeling that the world is at my feet, but this day, it felt different from the very start. I stepped out of the car, and immediately the city swallowed me. It wasn't huge, not in the way people imagine cities, but it felt enormous, alive, and somehow unwelcoming. Voices twisted around me, words I couldn't understand hitting my ears like waves, crashing into me from all sides. I tried to smile, tried to look calm, tried to tell myself that this was nothing, but there was a flutter in my stomach, a whisper telling me to be careful. Normally, I'm confident. I can talk my way through almost anything. I can read people, adjust, adapt. But here, without my translator, every simple task, every greeting, every question felt impossible. I wanted to ask someone for directions, to find out where I was supposed to go next, but the words stumbled over my lips and dissolved into the air, meaningless and useless. I could feel the panic starting to rise, the sharp edge of helplessness cutting into me. People were watching. I could feel it. I wasn't sure if it was curiosity or judgment, maybe both. There was a strange energy in their eyes, the way they glanced at me and then quickly looked away. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to hide in the safety of my hotel room and forget this city existed. But I couldn't. Not yet. I had to keep moving, keep trying. I walked toward a man standing behind a small kiosk, hoping for help. Maybe he could understand me. Maybe he would see my fear and guide me. But his eyes flicked over me as if I weren't even there. And then he went back to whatever he was doing. My heart sank. A few more people. A few more attempts. And the same result. Blank stares, polite nods, or shrugs that said, "Not my problem." The city felt cold, uncaring, and I couldn't escape it. The panic grew heavier with every step. My chest tightened. My hands trembled. I had never felt so small, so powerless. All my money, all my experience, all my confidence. It didn't matter here. Not a bit. I was just me. Vulnerable. Alone. And then I saw her. She was moving quietly, sweeping the sidewalk, arranging things, just doing her work. She looked ordinary at first glance, just a cleaner. But there was something in the way she moved, calm, assured, unbothered by the chaos around her, that caught my attention. My chest tightened in a strange way. Could someone like her actually help me? Could she see what I couldn't? I hesitated. Should I approach? Should I even try? I had never relied on someone like this before. But something in her eyes, a quiet steadiness, gave me a thread of hope. I took a tentative step toward her, and suddenly, the weight of the crowd, the language barrier, the helplessness, it all pressed down on me. Every whisper, every glance, every sound seemed louder, sharper, almost threatening. But she didn't flinch. She noticed me immediately, understood what I needed without a single word. Her hands moved quickly, her gestures simple but clear. She created a bridge between me and the world I couldn't navigate alone. And just like that, the panic that had threatened to consume me began to loosen its grip. The impossible suddenly felt possible. I don't think I even realized it at first. the way everything shifted in that single minute. The tension in the air, the sense of judgment, the fear, all of it began to dissolve. I could breathe again. I could move again. And the truth hit me hard. All the money in the world couldn't have saved me here. All my experience, my power, my status, they were meaningless in this moment. I looked at her, this quiet, overlooked figure who had changed everything. Relief, disbelief, and awe collided inside me. How could someone so ordinary hold such extraordinary power? Could I ever repay her? Could I even fully comprehend what had just happened? And then the thought came, sharp and unyielding. Life isn't about control, not really. It's about noticing the people who quietly hold the power to change your world when you need it most. That thought stayed with me as I walked away, heart still racing, mind spinning, trying to make sense of it all. Even after she helped me, I couldn't shake the feeling that the day wasn't over. The city, with its towering buildings and twisting streets, still felt like a maze designed to trap me. My hands were still trembling, my thoughts spinning faster than I could catch them. I kept replaying the moment with the cleaner, her calm confidence, the way she had seen what I couldn't. I had never been so aware of someone else's quiet strength. And yet, I also knew the danger wasn't behind me. Not yet. I tried to gather my courage and move toward my meeting, hoping the worst had passed. But the streets seemed different now, almost hostile. People moved around me, their voices sharper, their gestures harder to interpret. Every glance I received carried weight, some hint of judgment, or maybe it was just my imagination. But I couldn't be sure. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and anticipation. Something was coming. Something I hadn't expected. Something that would push me even further. I walked carefully, scanning for familiar landmarks, trying to memorize every turn. I kept replaying my words in my mind, imagining what I would say, how I could ask for help if things got worse. But each time I opened my mouth, the words twisted into sounds I didn't understand myself. The panic began to creep back, subtle at first, then stronger, gnawing at my chest. I realized how fragile my sense of control really was. And then it happened. A man stepped into my path, blocking me. His eyes were sharp, assessing, and his voice, though I didn't understand the language, carried authority. People were watching now, and I felt every eye on me. My instincts screamed to run, but my legs felt heavy, frozen under the weight of uncertainty. I wanted to disappear, to vanish into the crowd, but the man stepped closer, and I knew I couldn't avoid him. My panic spiked, my hands shook, my breaths came in short, uneven bursts. I could feel the crowd tightening around me, a living pressure I couldn't escape. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just lost in a foreign city. I was exposed, vulnerable, completely at the mercy of strangers. That's when she appeared again. The cleaner. I didn't even realize I had been looking for her. But suddenly she was there, weaving through the crowd with purpose. Her eyes met mine, and she gave me a small, reassuring nod. I didn't understand everything she was doing, but I felt a thread of hope, a lifeline in the chaos that had surrounded me for hours. She stepped in front of the man, using gestures, tone, and an authority I would have never expected from someone like her. Slowly, almost magically, the tension began to shift. The man backed off, the crowd's energy softened, and I could finally breathe. Relief washed over me in waves, but it was mixed with disbelief. How could someone so ordinary change everything in moments when my panic had felt unbearable? I followed her as she led me down a small alley, away from the noise and the stares, and for the first time that day, I felt safe. My mind was still racing, trying to make sense of the fear, the helplessness, the sheer unpredictability of what had happened. And yet, beneath it all, a spark of understanding was growing. I had been reminded that no amount of money or power could protect me from the raw unpredictability of the world. Real strength, real courage, often came from the most unexpected places. I realized that day, in a way I never had before, how much I had underestimated the ordinary people around me. People who live quietly, unnoticed, who could hold the power to change lives in ways you never see coming. And in that moment, I felt a strange mix of humility, awe, and a lingering fear that the world could be cruel, unfair, and unpredictable, but also full of unexpected heroes. Even as we reached a quieter street, I knew my journey wasn't over. The panic had subsided, but the lesson was still unfolding. I had faced helplessness, exposure, and a world I couldn't control, and it had changed me. I had glimpsed the fragility of safety, the illusion of power, and the extraordinary courage hiding in the most ordinary places. And I knew, deep down, that the next steps, whatever they were, would test me even further. Even after escaping the immediate chaos, my heart was still pounding, and I could feel the sweat clinging to my skin. Every step I took made me hyper-aware of the city's sounds, the chatter, the footsteps, the hum of distant traffic, all of it twisting around me like a reminder that I was still vulnerable. I knew that moment with the cleaner had saved me, but the fear hadn't completely left. There was something else lurking, something I couldn't name, something that made the city feel bigger, colder, and far less forgiving than it had when I arrived. I tried to steady my breathing, telling myself that I was lucky, that I had narrowly escaped disaster, that things were calming down. But deep inside, I knew better. I had felt the raw power of helplessness, and once you've felt it, you can't just forget it. My mind kept replaying every glance, every whisper, every moment when the crowd's gaze had felt like a weight pressing down on me. And then I remembered the man who had blocked my path, the authority in his stance, the sharpness in his eyes. He hadn't been cruel, not exactly, but the tension in his presence had been undeniable. And what if someone less patient had stepped in next time? I kept walking, following the cleaner as she moved with her quiet efficiency. I wanted to ask her questions, but my words still faltered, my tongue tripping over sounds that made no sense. Somehow, she understood what I couldn't say, guiding me through back streets, around corners, and through alleys that felt like secret passages in a city I didn't know. Every moment with her was like watching someone who had mastered a world I had only glimpsed, someone who could navigate chaos while I was drowning in it. The fear, though, was relentless. My chest tightened as I realized just how close I had come to losing control entirely. The city, which had seemed exciting that morning, now felt like a maze built to trap me. Each new street carried the possibility of exposure, embarrassment, or worse. And yet, there was something almost surreal in the way the cleaner moved so calmly, so unbothered by the invisible threats I could feel pressing in. Then, as we rounded a corner, the panic hit me all over again. Another crowd had gathered, a mix of pedestrians and street vendors, their attention suddenly drawn to us. I froze instinctively, my heart hammering in my ears. I wanted to disappear into the shadows, but the cleaner didn't flinch. She looked at me, her eyes steady, almost daring me to panic. And in that moment, I realized something profound. My fear, my vulnerability, my powerlessness. It wasn't a weakness. It was a lens, showing me the reality of life in a way I had never truly understood. People moved past us, glances flicking in our direction. I could feel the judgment, the curiosity, the subtle reminders of how exposed I was. And then I understood. This wasn't just about me being lost or scared. This was about the invisible boundaries, the biases, the barriers that exist every day for countless people. People who walk through life feeling ignored, dismissed, or powerless. I had felt it for minutes, but for them, it could be hours, days, or years. The cleaner finally stopped at a small, quiet street, away from the press of the crowd. She gestured for me to take a breath, to pause, to feel safe, if only for a moment. And I did. I sank against a wall, heart still racing, and let myself absorb what had just happened. The relief was immense, but so was the realization. I had just witnessed, firsthand, the fragility of safety, the illusion of control, and the power of unexpected courage. For the first time that day, I let myself feel gratitude, not just for being helped, but for seeing a truth I had never considered before. The world isn't always fair. People aren't always just. But there are those who, quietly, step in and make a difference when it matters most. And sometimes, those people are the ones you'd never notice, the ones you'd never expect to hold the power to save a life. I looked at the cleaner, at her calm, steady eyes, and felt a mix of awe and humility wash over me. And in that moment, I realized that this day would stay with me forever. Not because of the fear, but because of the lesson hidden within it. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might burst. The city's chaos hadn't ended. It had just shifted, following me like a shadow. Every sound, every movement felt amplified, like the walls of the streets were closing in. And then I saw him again, the man from before, stepping out as if he had been waiting. His eyes locked on me, and in that instant, every ounce of fear I had felt that day came rushing back. My chest tightened, my palms were slick with sweat, and I felt frozen, caught between wanting to run and knowing there was nowhere to hide. I glanced around desperately. The crowd's whispers swirled like a storm, their eyes flicking to me with curiosity, judgment, or maybe indifference. I tried to call for help, tried to make sense of my words, but they fell apart in my mouth, meaningless syllables in a language I didn't know. The panic clawed higher, threatening to consume me completely. I felt exposed, powerless, like every step I had taken in life, the control, the wealth, the status, meant nothing here in this moment. And then, just as hopelessness was about to take over, she appeared again. The cleaner. She stepped in front of me, calm and assured, like she knew exactly what needed to be done. Her eyes met mine, a silent command to breathe, to trust. I couldn't understand her words, but I felt the certainty in her presence, and it anchored me. My fear was still there, sharp and unrelenting, but a thread of hope had returned. She gestured, spoke firmly but softly, moving with a confidence I couldn't have imagined. Slowly, the tension began to shift. The man hesitated. The crowd softened, and the air that had felt suffocating seemed to lighten just a fraction. I could finally take a shaky breath, my chest loosening as the impossible started to feel possible. I couldn't believe it. Someone so ordinary, someone I would never have noticed, was changing everything in this moment that had threatened to destroy me. I followed her lead, each step a mixture of disbelief and relief. My mind was racing. I had been so scared, so powerless, and yet here I was, safe, alive, guided by someone I had underestimated completely. The shame, the awe, the gratitude all collided in me, a storm of emotions I could barely name. I realized then that life isn't about control or wealth or power. Life is about noticing the people who quietly hold the strength to change your world when you can't do it yourself. For a brief moment, time seemed to stop. I looked at her, the cleaner, the hero I hadn't seen coming, and I felt the full weight of what had just happened. My fear had been real, my panic justified, but her courage had been greater. She had solved in 1 minute what my status, my confidence, and my experience couldn't. And in that moment, I understood something I would never forget. Sometimes the most ordinary people are the most extraordinary. And true strength comes from courage, empathy, and action, not money or privilege. And as we stepped away from the crowd, heartbeats finally slowing, I knew this wasn't just a story of panic or helplessness. It was a lesson, raw and undeniable, about vulnerability, courage, and humanity. The question that stayed with me, and still does, is simple, yet powerful. How often do we overlook the quiet heroes around us, the ones who hold the power to change lives when it matters most? After the chaos finally eased, I sank onto a curb, my legs trembling and my chest heaving. The city around me had returned to its normal rhythm, unaware of the storm that had just passed through my life. I couldn't stop staring at her, the cleaner who had changed everything. I had underestimated her, overlooked her, assumed she was just another background figure in the city's chaos. And yet, she had been the one to save me, to guide me through a moment that had felt impossible, and to remind me of a truth I hadn't wanted to see. Power isn't always in wealth or status. Sometimes, it's in courage, empathy, and the quiet confidence of someone who sees what others cannot. I replayed the day in my mind, each moment of fear, panic, and helplessness, mixing with awe and gratitude. For hours, I had felt exposed and powerless, stripped of everything that normally defined me. And for hours, I had been forced to see the world through a lens I had never considered. The lens of vulnerability, of reliance on others, and of the unpredictable nature of human kindness. My wealth hadn't protected me. My status hadn't shielded me. What had saved me was something far simpler, yet infinitely more powerful: human connection. As I walked away, the city's sounds returning to normal, I realized the lesson would stay with me forever. It wasn't just about a day of fear or a moment of panic. It was about noticing the invisible struggles, the barriers, and the quiet heroes who exist in every corner of the world. At people who act when others cannot, who step forward when no one else will, and who remind us that life's most profound strength often comes from those we least expect. I thought about how many people face situations like mine every day. People who are judged, ignored, or dismissed simply because of circumstance, language, or background. I had felt it for minutes, but for them, it could be a lifetime. The city had shown me a glimpse of reality, a raw, unfiltered truth about vulnerability and courage. And it changed me. Even now, I carry that lesson with me. How often do we fail to notice the quiet strength around us? How often do we underestimate the ordinary, the overlooked, the seemingly powerless? The cleaner had shown me that true heroes are everywhere, and sometimes it takes a moment of vulnerability to finally see them. And so I ask you, what would happen if we opened our eyes? If we recognized courage where it hides? If we valued humanity over appearances? If we acted when others are in need? Perhaps then, the world wouldn't just be safer for us. It might finally be a place where everyone has the chance to be seen, heard, and saved.